Every single time I fly, I end up in boarding group 8. I stare at this massive, chaotic line, wondering how a quarter of the plane is somehow strolling on before me. Do they all have elite status? Or am I missing some secret way to get past the gate agent without being yelled at?
You are missing a very specific legal protection. Most passengers think you need a high-ranking credit card or a visible physical injury to board early. But the truth is rooted in federal law, specifically the Department of Transportation's Air Carrier Access Act. Airlines are legally required to offer pre-boarding to passengers who self-declare that they need extra time or assistance. You do not need a wheelchair, you do not need a doctor's note, and you do not need to explain your private medical history to a gate agent. If you suffer from severe travel anxiety, if you are recovering from a hidden surgery, or if navigating a crowded, narrow aisle causes you profound physical stress, you qualify. All you have to do is approach the gate desk before boarding begins and simply say, "I require a little extra time to board, please." By law, they must accommodate you in the absolute first boarding group. It is a protective measure designed for passenger safety, not an airline perk.
Wait, so I can just skip the line legally? But getting on the plane early is only half the battle. What if I am stuck in the very back row, pressed against the bathroom wall? Is there any way to get one of those huge extra legroom seats without paying an extra $100?
Yes, if you understand how airline software actually works. For months before a flight, the central reservation system locks those bulkhead and exit row seats behind a strict paywall. But exactly 45 minutes before the scheduled departure, an invisible switch is flipped. The flight enters a phase known internally as gate control. The central server releases the entire flight manifest directly to the local gate agent's computer terminal. At this exact moment, the system no longer prioritizes generating revenue. It prioritizes weight balance, boarding speed, and closing the aircraft doors on time. Any unsold premium economy or extra legroom seats instantly become open inventory. If you walk up to the gate desk 40 or 45 minutes before takeoff, before the chaotic boarding announcements start, you can politely say, "I noticed the flight is quite full today. If any extra legroom seats went unassigned, I would be extremely grateful to open them up for you." Gate agents have the total unilateral authority to assign those seats to polite passengers for free, simply by hitting a few keys.
I had no idea the computers just unlocked like that. So now I have the legroom. But what happens when the dreaded drink cart finally reaches my row and the flight attendant tries to hand me a tiny plastic cup filled with mostly ice? It feels so cheap. Why do they hide the rest of the soda can?
It is not about saving money. It is entirely about time management. Flight crews are trained to pour one single can of soda across 2 or 3 plastic cups strictly to speed up the aisle service. When you have 200 thirsty passengers, opening and handing out individual cans would add 30 minutes to the service routine. However, the galleys are almost always over-catered with aluminum cans in large storage bins. The inventory is absolutely there. If you ask politely when the cart reaches you saying, "May I please have the full can?" they will almost always give it to you. The same logic applies to food. The snacks on the cart are rationed, but after the first service round concludes, the remaining inventory sits untouched in the galley bins. Furthermore, on long cross-country or international flights, there are often unserved hot meals left over from the first class or premium cabins. If you walk entirely to the back or front galley when the crew is not busy and politely ask if there are any leftover premium meals or extra snacks they plan to throw away, you are highly likely to walk away with high-quality food that the airline was legally required to discard upon landing anyway.
Okay, so the food and drinks are fixable. But once I am fed and hydrated, a new problem always creeps in. The freezing cabin air. I always assumed they keep the plane like an icebox on purpose, to kill germs or keep people from getting airsick. Are we just supposed to suffer under those paper-thin airline blankets?
The idea that cold air kills cabin germs is a complete internet myth. Your air is filtered through hospital-grade HEPA filters, which is what actually removes the pathogens, regardless of the temperature. The real reason it feels cold is because the flight crew runs around constantly during boarding and service, causing them to sweat in their heavy uniforms, so they turn the master temperature down. But modern commercial aircraft, like the Boeing 737 or Airbus A320, operate on a dual-zone or multi-zone climate control system. The flight attendants have a touchscreen panel in the forward or aft galley where they can adjust the temperature in specific sections of the plane, usually split between the front, middle, and rear cabins. If you wait 20 minutes after takeoff until the crew is no longer sweating from hauling luggage, you can press your call bell and politely say, "Our specific row in the section around us feels intensely cold. Would it be possible to bump the temperature up just 2 degrees in this zone?" They can, and usually will, make that micro adjustment for you on the touchscreen.
Being able to change the temperature is actually a game changer. But being physically comfortable won't matter at all if the plane departs late and I am about to miss my connecting flight. I hate sitting there anxiously, wondering if my next plane is leaving without me. Is there anything the crew can actually do?
Yes, but you have to understand the boundaries of federal aviation rules. Flight attendants cannot legally force a connecting flight to hold its departure for you. The Federal Aviation Administration tracks on-time performance ruthlessly, and holding a massive aircraft for 2 passengers disrupts global air traffic slots. However, what they can do during your descent is execute a downline station call. The lead flight attendant has a direct communication line via the flight deck to the operations tower at your arrival airport. If you inform the crew early that you have a 20-minute connection window, they can radio ahead. The destination gate agents will then know exactly which incoming seat you are in. Operations might hold the boarding door open for an extra 2 minutes, dispatch an electric cart to drive you across the terminal, or pre-book you automatically onto the next available flight so you do not have to stand in a rebooking line. You must ask the crew to contact operations before the wheels touch the tarmac, because once you land, their internal communication channels switch over to local ground control.
Navigating connections requires perfect timing. But what if I have a strict schedule for my own health? Like, if we hit severe turbulence, the seatbelt sign stays on for an hour, the crew locks down the carts, and I desperately need to take my heart medication. Am I just out of luck until the captain turns the sign off?
Absolutely not. Under airline safety regulations, the crew's #1 priority goes beyond the seatbelt sign. It applies to acute passenger health. While flight attendants are strictly ordered to remain seated during severe turbulence to prevent workplace injuries, taking time-sensitive medication constitutes a medical necessity. When you board, if you know you are on a strict medical schedule, inform the crew immediately. Say, "I have a mandatory medication window at 3 o'clock, and I will need a glass of water to take it, regardless of the weather." By officially notifying them, they are obligated to prepare your water in advance. Even if the cabin is locked down and the carts are stowed, a flight attendant is authorized to hand you that pre-prepared water. You must communicate this early, so they do not have to compromise their own safety by boiling water or accessing heavy carts during a dangerous drop in altitude.
Speaking of legal obligations and official procedures, what about after the flight? Whenever the crew mentions filling out a survey at the end of the trip, I usually just ignore it. Do they actually read that feedback? Or does it just vanish into some corporate void?
It does not vanish. In fact, official written commendations are the most powerful currency an airline employee possesses, and it is the ultimate way to guarantee elite treatment for yourself on future flights. Airlines run on incredibly strict internal point systems. When you send a formal email to the airline's corporate contact page detailing a flight attendant's exceptional service, a copy of that email is physically placed into their permanent human resources file. It directly impacts their monthly schedule bidding power, their chances of receiving corporate bonuses, and their career mobility. You must include their exact first name, the flight number, and the date. Once you do this, many major carriers link that commendation back to your own frequent flyer profile. The internal algorithm flags you as a high-value, appreciative customer. The next time you fly that same airline, the gate agents and crew will see a hidden marker on your passenger manifest profile. Because they know you are an active participant in their reward system, you instantly jump to the top of the invisible list for extra legroom upgrades, free premium drinks, and priority rebooking during devastating weather delays.